Hey guys, Eric Bischoff here to talk to you about my friends over at SaveWithConrad.com. Are you looking to get out of debt? Conrad and his team can make that happen faster than me firing the honky tonk man. Wow. And you know that controversy creates cash, right? But you know what doesn't create cash? Credit card debt. Save with Conrad can help you consolidate high-interest credit cards and all of your other debt into one low monthly payment. They can even help you get the cash you need for home improvements or anything else. They've helped 83 Weeks listeners save $500, $600, $700, even $800 a month. Seriously, your papers are going to go down faster than Nitro ratings in 2000. Ouch! And how about this? No house payments for 2 months. That's right, no house payments for 2 months. And unlike the dirt sheets, man, the reviews do not lie. With over 1,000 5-star reviews, find out for yourself how much Conrad and his team can save you by checking out SaveWithConrad.com today. You'll be grateful you did.
NMLS number 65084, equal housing lender. Woo!
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to Grilling JR with the voice of wrestling, Mr. Jim Ross. Jim, how are you, man?
I'm not bad, Connie. I had an interesting morning. As I mentioned to you before we went on the air, I was chatting with you and Bull. I had to go to the emergency room this morning because I was concerned that the redness in my wounded leg was moving. And I've been warned about that you don't want to let this thing get out of control. If you see it move over past a certain spot on your leg, you need to go to the emergency room right away and have them look at it. And I did, and they looked at it and they did nothing. It didn't need anything. You said you're fine. He said, but just it's good that you're paying attention. But if it continues to move in a northerly direction, you need to come back and see us. So I did that this morning. That was awful fun. And that's just part of the maintenance of this shit. I can tell you that right now. People say, when are you going to go back to work? Well, I want to go. I like to go back to work tonight. I like to go back to work next week, but I don't know when that's going to be.
Right.
I've got to get past this thing, and I'm hoping that the two issues I have, I can protect my wound from infection in a pretty good way. I've got the medicines, the solvents, the covers, all that stuff. But man, what's killing me right now is this lower back thing. I've heard guys talk about sciatica, and not in a very positive way. It's really challenging, Connie. Have you ever had sciatica?
No, I haven't. But I mean, I know people who have been affected by it.
Yeah, it's not good, man.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm working on that, a couple of things, and I can promise you that nobody in AEW wants to go back to work more than me. I miss being around the guys. I miss helping these young kids. I'm a good listener to them and for them. I miss all that. It's just I'm a alpha personality, I like to be around other people and like to help others. And, when you're sitting here in a condo, which is nice, it's on the beach, it's all cool. I'm not bitching about that, but you are alone. And being alone is not a really good thing for me. Sometimes, like Conrad, I don't know if you'll believe this, or Bull. Sometimes when left to my own devices, I can make bad decisions.
I believe that.
So anyway, it's going to be fine. It's going to get better. And, I'm going to see a good guy that can help me. And he's dealt with these guys before where they needed to get a fast turnaround and all that stuff. So hopefully I'll get some relief and I'll be able to put my shoes on without help, not help another individual, but brace against something. It's going to be shoes I can slip in and out of, those shoes where you don't have to, you just put them on like Skechers or something like that. So that's where I am. I mean, I'm at that level. But just a couple of weeks ago, I couldn't even put my shoes on.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't bend over. So I would not have been very positive influence in prison because I can't bend over. I can't help you, fellas. You guys got to go. You guys got to go to another cell.
Back of the line.
Yeah, I'm not your guy today.
Well, we're glad that you're our guy today. We're talking about the Attitude Era. We're going all the way back to 1998. Our topic today, fully loaded 1998. This is quite the summer for WWE. Of course, we get things kicked off in April when Raw finally beats Nitro with the main event of Mr. McMahon versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. We rock along through June, and we've got a King of the Ring with a Hell in the Cell that changes everything. Certainly Undertaker, Mick, and your career never the same after that. I mean, one of the most famous moments and calls in the history of wrestling. And now you're sort of faced with, how do we top that?
Right.
If you want to listen to that episode, by the way, it's available in the archives right now at Grilling JR on youtube.com. On the heels of that spectacle at King of the Ring, I mean, it's hard to follow that with anything, is it not?
Oh yeah. I don't know if you can follow it, and I don't know that it's smart to do all you can. Yeah, I mean, you want to do all you can, but you got to be realistic in the fact that you just saw one of the most extraordinary displays of courage, pro wrestling, athleticism, all those things, everything you could think of. Those things can't be replicated on a regular basis, if ever. You know, here we are in 2023 still talking about Foley's bump off the top of the cell in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So those type of events are one-offs. They can't be replicated as easily as maybe some fans might think. Well, just book another match and do something else. The way that match played out, that match, Pronoun Boy, was Foley and Taker. The way that played out, you can't replicate, because you'll never do that again. At least if you do, you're stupid, because Mick's lucky he's able to still. And I've been watching the what the hell's it called, where they're looking for lost treasures. WWE.
Oh yeah, Most Wanted Treasures, yeah.
And you know, watching him get out of the car or a van usually, and then walk into the individual's house that they're going to visit is painful.
Yeah.
He walks lopsided. You know, he's challenged. And that's just because of not only of all those bumps, but you got to believe that one off the cell did some long-term damage. It seems like it. I might be wrong about that. I might be overestimating, but you know, when you talk about tough guys and shooters, you know, you and I were talking about Adrian Adonis before we went on the air, and I'd never met Adrian Adonis. He's one of the few guys that those people have featured on TV that I didn't know or haven't met in some shape, form, or fashion. But Adrian Adonis was a tough guy and a street fighter, and could take care of himself in any environment except Dan Spivey, as we saw. And Dan, the left-handed man, whipped a lot of ass. So, but he didn't go brag about it. He didn't try to make headlines with it. So he was kind of off the grid as far as being one of the tough guys. But when we talk about tough guys, how do you leave Foley out?
Right. Yeah, he's got to be at the top of the list.
He's got to be right there, man.
Yeah.
So anyway, I appreciate Mick's courage, but you can't replicate that match. And sometimes you got to bite the bullet on the next one to hope you can build to a sequel, so to speak, in something else with some other talents. It's not going to be Taker and Mick. It's just not going to be anything. And if you tried, it wouldn't be fair to the talent. They can't replicate that. So anyway, it brought everything. It got a lot of awareness, got a lot of folks talking. But your question originally was, how do you follow it? And my answer to you, Connie, is I don't think you can.
Right. Well, listen, let's mention the next night. You guys are back at it, of course. It's Monday Night Raw, one night after King of the Ring. And this actually gets the third highest rating in the history of the show. And it's actually the highest rating when it was head to head with Nitro. Do you think that water cooler talk, I mean, was it the game of telephone literally with The Undertaker and Mankind, and people wanted to tune in the next day?
Oh, yeah. I think curiosity, the word spread. People said, they did what?
Yeah.
Foley did what? Is he okay? Are you? How do I see this? How'd this happen? So yeah, I think it helped a lot.
Let's also mention that this is the era. I guess this pay-per-view we're talking about is where we would normally start to talk about Brawl for All. We're not going to spend much time talking about that today. We're going to do it long form next week. But this is the same era where we've got, we're trying new things. We're going to talk about Sable taking her top off on this show, Undertaker throwing Mankind off the top of the cage, and some silliness like Brawl for All. So it's not all a home run, but man, people are tuning in a big way here for wrestling, not just WWE, but WCW too. As a reminder, on the other channel, fresh off of the NBA Finals, we've got the two guys who represented those teams in the finals in the squared circle now, and Karl Malone and Dennis Rodman doing a tag with DDP and Hulk Hogan here. But the way we're doing this, like that final quarter hour between both shows, really hot products. Goldberg's on a tear. You guys are tearing it up with Austin. The combined rating, Jim, 25 years ago was a 9.93, and maybe even more impressive to me, a 17 share.
Yeah.
That's almost 1 in 5 people who are watching television are watching professional wrestling. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's good for your retirement fund.
Yeah.
You know that you're going to be around a while, or seemingly. Or do we really know that? I don't know. But yeah, you're right. It was the product was hot. And it wasn't just like, well, anything you rolled out there, they're going to watch. It's still got to be good. It's still going to be provocative and exciting and unpredictable. Those are the things the boxes you try to check. And sometimes we're successful doing that, and sometimes we were not. So, but to say anything's going to follow that Foley Taker Hell in a Cell would be BSing ourselves.
It's an interesting time because, we're trying new things creatively. And the biggest thing we've tried that's really hit is the Mr. McMahon character.
Yeah.
This Monday Night Raw right after King of the Ring is in Cleveland. And it opens with Mr. McMahon, Gerald Briscoe, and Sergeant Slaughter coming out. Of course, as you may recall, Pat Patterson was not here because his partner Lou passed away the day before. We haven't spent a lot of time talking about Lou. I'm sure you got to spend a little bit of time with Lou. What can you tell us about him?
Oh, Louis was a great guy. I spent a lot of time with Louis. When Jan and I first moved to Connecticut, Louis became a very staunch confidant, a friend, showing us where the grocery stores were and the utility office and how to take care of your phone bill and all that kind of stuff. He wanted to help us. He was like the company liaison on an unofficial basis. But Jan and I love Louis. We love their dog, Buddy. We spent a lot of time at Pat's house when Jan was on a flight. She was working for U.S. Airways at that time. When she was on our trip, 2 or 3 day trip, whatever it was, I spent a lot of time at Pat and Louie's house. And the other great thing about old Louie was he knew where all the skeletons were buried. He loved the dirt. He was a smart guy. He had a good mind for the business. He learned so much from Pat, and having that barber shop in San Francisco, as Louis did for all those years. He cut all the boys' hair. Like I said, he knew where the fish were biting or the whatever. So we love Louis, and it was such a shock when he passed away. And I still think of Louis every now and then. He was a nice guy. And he prepared me for my career there, to be honest with you. He said, you're going to, because I'd see Louis during the daytime. We'd go to Swinky Frank's hot dog shop there in Norwalk for lunch a lot, grilled hot dogs. And I still love them. It's hard to beat a grilled hot dog. So anyhow, Louis would say, just be patient. Soon you're going to be busier than you ever dreamed you could be. And that was long before I ever thought about being involved in talent relations, et cetera, et cetera. Wow. And Louis was right. He knew that Vince saw something in me. Apparently he might have heard Pat talking about it. I don't know, but he was right. I got really, really busy, and Louis helped prepare me for that.
The angle we're going to set up here in this opening segment is a rematch. Of course, Kane beat Stone Cold Steve Austin the night before at Fully Loaded, thanks to a little help from The Undertaker. But now we're going to set up a rematch. Austin's going to interrupt this presentation of the new championship to the new champ and demand a rematch. And of course, Vince says that's fine if Paul says it's fine. And Paul says that's fine as long as Kane says it's fine. And Kane agrees. So in our opening segment, we've set a rematch for the main event with your top star. It's no wonder that you're going to do banana ratings when you start the story like this, right?
Yeah, well, it's a match that people wanted to see because a lot of folks didn't see it the night before.
That's right.
And they didn't realize that we had a new top dog, and it wasn't Steve, it was Kane. So how did all this happen? Maybe they didn't know. They haven't had an explanation of it yet. They hadn't seen all the videotape, whatever. It was a different world than we live in now, where going back and finding matches and things of that nature are very easy.
Yes.
There's no reason you're going to miss anything. It's like missing this show. You know, if you miss it on its original airing when it drops, stay tuned.
Yes.
Because you're going to be able to catch it here in a day or so, or a few hours, or whatever you choose. So, yeah, it was a big time deal to have a return for the title in 24 hours. So I thought it was a good booking, and I didn't know how good the rating was going to be, but Conrad knew it was going to be strong.
What was not so strong is William Regal's debut. Steven Regal is going to debut here against Darren Drozdoff. He's going to get the win with the Regal stretch. It takes 4 minutes and 41 seconds. Meltzer would say Jim Ross was trying to get Regal over, but it was amazing that he was brought in basically to be a backdrop for Sable playing remote control robot in the background saying, "I'm sorry, but I can't answer that question." It was almost as if someone wanted to make sure Regal didn't have a chance to get over in his debut, and luckily for them, they got their wish. We both think a lot of Mr. Regal, but this isn't really the way you normally would debut a character. What do you remember of this?
He was underutilized from the get-go. Some of that was Regal's own fault because of his the perception of his drug use, and he did have some drug and alcohol. I know drug issues. I don't know about the alcohol. Maybe that too. I don't know. But he was he for some reason, I don't think Vince ever truly trusted him in that era. Now, over the time, you know, Regal has become a strong ally at Triple H. He's done a lot of positive things in NXT. He's helped develop a lot of talent. He's helped sign a lot of talent. You know, he had his run with us at AEW, which was great. Talents loved him being around. He was there every morning before anybody else, even in the latter days, to help young talents. He was always in the ring when he was with AEW, always teaching, always coaching, always motivating. So he was a great asset for Tony Khan's company, and for all of us that became friends, better friends. I've always been in his corner, sometimes to my own chagrin. You know, when you take a guy that you really believe has something to offer, that I did with Regal, and you take him into Vince McMahon's office, the three of you are sitting at Vince's table, and I get a kick in my shin, and I just think Vince moved his leg, and he's got big feet, and inadvertently hit me. But he was trying to get my attention, and then he'd look over. I look at Regal, he's asleep.
Oh. So
that kind of killed my pitch. Not even my salesmanship to salvage that one, Connie.
Yeah.
So he did some things that were self-destructive. But it didn't mean he didn't have a good heart. Didn't mean he didn't have a great knowledge of the business. He's a really good teacher and has a great eye for talent. But when you fall asleep on your big interview in the boss's office, he kind of cuts your feet out from under you, because the old man just looked at it like, you just wasted my time with this guy. So that's how that started. But I always had great confidence in Regal. I really did, still do. He's a great asset to anybody's company.
It's just interesting that they, they made the effort to sign him and put him on paper and start paying him and flying him in, but we can't be bothered to really promote the character. So here he is. Go do your wrestling. It's just not what they were doing, especially for guys like Val Venus, who's in the next segment wrestling Dick Togo, or as Bruce and I call him, Dick to Go.
Right.
And this is really a backdrop for Val Venus trying to come on to Mr. Yamaguchi-san's wife here. So that's the story we're trying to sell, and we're still doing the commentary thing like we did with Sable in the prior segment.
Yeah. Who is that young lady that played the part of the wife? You have any idea?
She was a wrestler too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She looks familiar, but I slept since then. She's an attractive lady. Yeah, we're doing a lot of sexual innuendo, if you will, to make it more sports entertainment like. This is in the heart of the sports entertainment era, where a lot of sexual innuendo, dating, infidelity, et cetera, was taking place or about to take place.
Yeah, I guess maybe Mr. Yamaguchi-san's real wife was a wrestler. She was not. She just got out of the business after this angle and pursued her modeling career. And another guy who's trying to do something a little different here is Dustin Runnels. Now, we've seen Dustin for years and years as the Goldust character. Now, after he's done the whole sit-down interview with you the prior summer, we're trying to figure out, hey, where are we going with this? And, of course, along the way, we got the whole Brian Pillman stuff, and then Pillman passed away. So now here in the summer of 1998, Dustin is trying a born-again Christian persona where he's going to be on the headsets with you guys, asking if you've accepted the Lord Jesus Christ into your lives. And I can't help but wonder, like, are we trying to make him a heel and using religion to do it? Or what's the goal? I don't really understand.
I think just get people to pay attention to him, Connie, is all I can figure out.
Yeah.
If I was in charge of creative in any company, one of the last things I'd want to try is a religion angle.
Yes.
There's a lot more opportunity to fail with that than not. And it's sensitive territory. So I'm a big believer that you stay away from religion. You stay away from politics. And during my career of almost 50 years, I've unfortunately had to deal with both of those.
Well, something else that's sensitive, your balls. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to unleash the beach beast within you. This summer, Manscaped is here to help you up your beach game with the new Beard Hedger Pro Kit. They're going waist deep in the grooming game and diving headfirst to create your facial hair fantasies. The Beard Hedger is a game changer, allowing you to shape your beard. So this summer, let the beach balls bounce and turn heads all over the place. Visit manscaped.com, use the code Jim Ross, and you'll get 20% off plus free shipping. It's time to tame your mane. Say goodbye to all your stubble trouble with Manscaped's new Beard Hedger Pro Kit. It all starts with the actual Beard Hedger. It's a cordless trimmer. It's got rotary wheels, and it's going to allow you 20 different hair cutting lengths with just one guard. That means no drawer full of messy add-ons and junk. It's waterproof. You can use it in the shower. You can do whatever you want with this thing. Seriously, this is a titanium-coated T-blade that's tough on hair but smooth on your face and leads to what Tony Schiavone called single-stroke efficiency. Ask his kids about that. The Pro Kit doesn't end there, though. They've got dermatologist-tested formulations. You got the beard shampoo and conditioner. Remember, your facial hair is different than your hair. Your beard hair is more coarse, so it's easier to damage than the hair on your head. This is going to make sure that you're taking care of all that. It's designed to moisturize, reduce those ingrown hairs, replace your natural oils, and promote beard health. I also want to mention beard oil. That's going to relieve dryness on the beard and make sure that the skin underneath has a little shimmer and shine. And how about the beard balm? That's going to allow you to shape and style and moisturize. You can have a more sculpted look if you're into that sort of thing. How about 3 free gifts also included with the kit here? A beard brush, comb, and scissors. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code Jim Ross at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Just use the code Jim Ross Manscaped Beard Hedger, 1 stroke, 1 guard, 20 links.
I like 20% off. I like free shipping.
Yeah, me too.
That's what you get here. And for a product that has been universally accepted as the standard in this world. So we are really honored to have Manscaped on as a big sponsor. And you'll be even happier when you use their products, folks. It's a no-brainer. Check it out.
Shamrock, coming off King of the Ring, is going to defeat 2 other previous Kings of the Ring, Owen Hart and Triple H. This is a 3-way dance. This is the era, 97, 98, where we really start to see this become more commonplace. For years and years and years, it was a singles match or it was a tag match. But this era, late 90s, is where we start to see, it's a 3-way dance. It's a 4-way. What do you think of that concept and how it evolved here? Were you a fan of it at the time? Have you warmed up to it?
I think it was a indictment of short-term planning. It's hard to get 4 teams over in a 4-team tag. You can usually get 1 if you're lucky. If the match goes smoothly and has cohesion and cooperation from everybody involved. So, but I'm not a big fan of those multiple tags. I know why they're used. You want to get guys busy. You want to it allows the decision maker to utilize more talents and give more talents the opportunity. Said that way, it's not a bad thing. But looking at it realistically, how many teams actually get over in a 3-team tag or a 4-team tag or a singles match, 4-way or what have you? It's challenging. Everybody can't get over. So you got to pick and choose, I guess. So I know why we're doing them, and I know why they're done in the business. I know why we were doing them in the Attitude Era. Get guys work and get them on TV and see if we could find something that we did not perceive was there, which will be told to us by our audience.
Let's talk about a talent relations issue I'm sure you had to handle here with Sunny. As a reminder, she came back with the Legion of Doom. We were calling them LOD 2000. That was at WrestleMania 14 at the end of March.
Dead on arrival.
Yeah.
So, sorry to interrupt you, but it just
didn't work.
So
here's the latest on Sunny here, just a few months into this. They said Sunny wasn't there because she was under the weather. Actually, on June 26, due to her no-shows at autograph sessions and erratic behavior over the last month or two, Sunny was given an ultimatum by the company to either attend a counseling program or rehab, I'm not sure which, or get terminated. And she accepted the counseling program and won't be back until completing whatever it is they mandated her for. Apparently, Sunny is also having, among other things, a difficult time dealing with Sable having shot past her and her being stuck with LOD, which turned into personal quicksand for her career. Talk to me about this. I'm sure you're involved in this. I know it wasn't a pleasant conversation. What do you recall?
Oh, a lot of crying and a lot of denial. Kind of what you'd expect. But she had no plan B's presented her. Here's the plan. You either take our suggestion and use this expensive counseling program that we, the WWE, are paying for. So you're not going to be out any money. And I'm not so sure, Conrad. I'm trying to think back. I think we even paid her while she was off. You got to pay your bills still. And we're trying to eliminate as much pressure so that she could focus on the therapy. But I was never sure that she was taking the therapy seriously. She was trying to keep her job.
Well, somebody who's going to come in and get a job is Paul Ellering. So with Sunny out, it looks like LOD is going to be looking for a new manager, or so we think. Ellering instead has DOA come out and jump the Road Warriors, and he announces he's going to manage the DOA. Is this just the swerve, bro? And did anybody want to see this? Like, if you want Paul Ellering there, you want him with the roadies, right?
Yeah, and having a guy like Paul Ellering in your locker room is always a good thing, Conrad. Whether he's hot as he was, hey, look, Ellering's not going to be as hot as he was in the original run with the Road Warriors. And by the way, neither are the Road Warriors.
That's right. Yeah.
So, but Paul was such a classy guy. I thought also he was a good set of eyes on Hawk and Animal, and a good guy to have the other talents in the locker room chat with, converse with, learn from. So I always would justify Paul Ellering's hiring. I'm not telling you that we're going to bring him back, we're going to heat them all up, they're going to be the same as they used to be. No, we'd already shit the bed on that deal with LOD 2000, and it just didn't work. The thing, we needed to figure out something, a personal issue or something that the Road Warriors could invest within to get them jump started. It can't be the same formulaic matches that people have seen forever and ever. So we always trying to hedge our bets. Hey, look, if we could get the Road Warriors hot in that era, good for us. But many within our group felt like that was going to be a long shot. And I'm sure that Bruce, if you talk to him about it someday, would probably agree. To me, there's no hedging your bets there. It was a long shot to get them back over, and we didn't succeed.
Well, something you did succeed in is getting one of the biggest pops of the year. Just one night after dropping the title to Kane, Stone Cold wins it back here on Monday Night Raw. It takes 8 minutes and 26 seconds. It's a good match. Austin's going to slip out of the tombstone, hit the stunner for the finish. Afterwards, he's going to give the Undertaker a stunner. The place is just going bananas. And then both Kane and the Undertaker sit up simultaneously. So it's a really cool visual. I mean, this is one of those iconic crowd reactions. I mean, have you ever seen anything like Stone Cold in 1998?
No.
Yeah.
I wish I could say yes, because it would be the ultimate compliment for a talent to be compared their pops to Austin's. But I haven't come across that yet. The closest thing to it probably has been Rock on certain occasions. He did exactly. He had the audience in the palm of his hand too, but Austin had a firmer grip on it. It seemed to me like more people could identify with Steve, that could identify with the exotic look and the intimidating presence of the Great One.
It's really something to go out of your way to see, and you're really proud of it. I mean, this does a record number. And even though you're taping Raw the next day, the commentary, as I understand it, was often done live. Is that right?
Yeah.
So you just go in the studio and do it live there?
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
So that way we could keep up with current events.
Yes.
If a story broke while we were on the air and we didn't say anything about it, it's going to kind of tip the hand, shall we say. So yeah, it was, we do live voiceovers. And I liked it, quite frankly, because it's not the fact you had a net. You didn't. It's still going live.
Right.
But you had a chance to review the tape and make sure you didn't miss something that was imperative to the storytelling. So yeah, we did them live. And that was good for me. I lived there. So yes, it worked out for me. Lawler had to fly in, but he didn't mind that either because he got paid for coming in.
Super fun show here. And even the taped episode, the reason I bring up the commentary is you're able to mention, hey, I want to thank all the fans for tuning in and watching Monday Night Raw last week. We were the most watched program on all of cable television last week. Like, man, what a feather in the cap from just a few years ago, is it not?
Yeah, yeah. It shows you, Conrad, in pro wrestling, if you're a smart booker and you create the illusion of a great rivalry, competitive balance, that things can work. And still to this very day, none of that, what I just said, has changed. Nothing. So if you got, it's the old deal. I remember Watts saying, we did draw a house somewhere along the way. And I said, what do you think happened? He said, well, what do you think? What do you mean what I think happened? God damn it, kid. We didn't have what they wanted to see. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, you booked it. So I said something along those lines.
Yeah.
And he said to me something along the lines of, you fucking idiot.
My goodness.
Everything I booked doesn't turn to gold. I wish it did, but it doesn't.
Well, we know that we are going to be printing gold that summer because Fully Loaded, we've got an announcement here. It's going to be Austin and Undertaker teaming up. So clearly to have a match like that with a finish like you did at King of the Ring, you know we're going to Undertaker Austin. And we've seen that sort of thing before, a babyface match, if you will. But like it feels like whenever it's been tried, it was disappointing. Like WrestleMania 6, I don't think the buy rate was what they were hoping for. It was way down from 5. WrestleMania 12, you know, your two biggest and best stars are arguably the best wrestlers in the world too, and Brett and Shawn.
Yeah.
The buy rate's not huge. I mean, I think the WCW pay-per-view that month beat it. What do you think of the babyface attraction as a big pay-per-view main event?
Wasn't crazy about it, Connie. Wasn't crazy about it. The people got to make a choice. And Austin was so over that it compelled some of his constituents to boo the Undertaker. And Undertaker was one of our most valued and top stars, a babyface. He was loved, respected, feared. So it was going to take a special match with special chemistry for that match to work. And I can tell you from talking to both talents, they both had apprehensions about working together. And it wasn't because they didn't like each other. They were just worried about the chemistry balance. You know, what can we do here that's going to make this thing kind of a cool match? And so they were neither one for it, I don't think. But I think to the best of my knowledge, and I might be wrong, Connie, but I was close to both guys, still am, luckily for me, that they just didn't have the confidence that the two of them would have the chemistry that was going to be what the world was looking for, something extraordinary. Let's remember one of the most influential moments for Undertaker's career was on pay-per-view, and it was against Mick Foley in that Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
So he's returning from that. In my view, he's getting back on the radar, and it's going to be hard to follow what he already did in Pittsburgh. And now he's got to do it with Austin. And they both like the hell out of each other, had great respect for each other. My God. Because they're a lot alike. Hard-nosed, tough Texas guys, came through the territory era, starved for a while, and they finally found their way, shall we say. And but they both had some apprehensions about wrestling each other one-on-one. And somebody out there is going to think, well, it's ego. No, it's just reality. They know. Hey, look, nobody wanted to have a greater match between the two than the two of them. Duh. But it's just going to be challenging to pull off because of their styles, shall we say.
We should also mention that we're trying to elevate some guys up the card. And one of my favorites that we really started to focus on in 1998 is D'Lo Brown.
Yeah.
D'Lo had been a part of the nation even back in late 96 and certainly all through 97. I mean, he's been around, but now it feels like he's getting a breakout opportunity. And one of the things that helped make him stand out, as silly as it is, he's wearing a protective vest.
Hey, it's not silly if I came up with it.
I mean, like on the one hand, there's nothing to it, right? It's just like what a catcher would wear. On the other hand, it looks freaking cool. I love that idea. Had you seen anybody do this before, D'Lo? I know it was your idea, but is this the first time you've seen?
Well, we just need to come up with something that's going to differentiate that frog splash and make it a finisher.
Yes,
for sure, a finisher. And we didn't know as announcers. We asked questions whether or not the vest was loaded,
right?
With a gimmick type thing, you know.
Yes.
And but I thought it might work. I pitched it to D'Lo. I saw he put some stuff on Twitter the other day, I guess at a show or something. Somebody asked him about it, and he was very much against it in the beginning. He thought it was cartoonish, and I explained to him why he needed it. Well, do you think you're getting over the way you're doing it? Really? You're not. and you should be getting over because you're a big, athletic, intelligent guy. You just need a little something to add to your inventory. And I thought that would be an idea. Vince liked it, and I think that might have been what closed the deal for me with D'Lo. I mean, D'Lo would have done it if we said, "Here's what you're going to do," but that's not what you want. You want it to be part of his idea too, and him to embrace it, and he did. And I thought it worked out for him. Is that the patience was his enemy. Those in charge just didn't have the patience for D'Lo, and that's too bad. He might have been too nice a guy.
Too nice a guy is a phrase you don't hear a lot, but I'm glad we get to hear and attach that to D'Lo. It probably also applies to Mick Foley. He's at this TV taping, so we're 48 hours removed from King of the Ring, and he's on the doggone show. Why wasn't anybody pushing him to just go home, take some time off?
I think we were, and I think we did, but nobody put their foot down.
Right.
It was like, well, he wants to be a part of the show. He wants to be still on the team. He knows he dodged a huge bullet, the size of a cannonball in that bump he took in Pittsburgh. I think it was a matter of trying to protect his feelings.
Right.
To be honest with you. Mick, like I said earlier, Conrad, about my own situation, and I'm not going to make this about me, but when the business becomes your life, and you're at an age where, I don't have little Jan with me anymore. My kids are grown. They're in Oklahoma. They've got their lives. I love both my girls to death, and it's been challenging. All these years of travel, missing this, missing that. So I really, I don't know. Nobody wanted to hurt Mick's feelings, and so he was a TV. And if you're going to bring him to TV in Vince's world, you might as well work.
Right. Well, here's who's working. It's Mankind, Kane, and The Undertaker. They're going to do a three-way dance here to determine who's going to become the number one contender. Mr. McMahon's running everybody down, but first he's very complimentary of Mankind and thanks him for all he's done for the company. Then he tells Kane he's the stupidest man he's ever seen, and Undertaker is this evil, diabolical excuse for a human being. But Mick is wrestling in a three-way just 2 days after this. It's unbelievable.
Yep. I think it's a bad decision. I've given you the best explanation of why. Mick wanted to work. He wanted to still stay there and contribute. He felt like he had a lot of momentum, and I'm not going to argue that he didn't, because a lot of people were talking about that match and that bump and Mick Foley. He didn't want to let the iron get cold.
Well, what's not cold is the wrestling product, not just here, but WCW. This is a taped show that we're talking about, and this was heads up with the Nitro from the Georgia Dome. So you got Goldberg beating Hogan on the other station. Maybe the most notable thing that happened on the WWE program that night was the skit where DX would mock the Nation. So it's a parody that we certainly wouldn't do in 2023. We had white folks out here dressing up in blackface. Can't do that. Goodness gracious. We also see Jason Sensation on camera just crushing it as Owen Hart.
A talented kid. Really talented kid.
I mean, no doubt.
I thought he would go. Excuse me, Conrad. I thought he would go a lot farther than he did.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was a social thing or social awkwardness might be a better way of putting it. I don't know. But it wasn't talent, because he had a lot of talent, and I thought he was a pretty good kid. I communicated with him a fair amount, and he was always polite, professional. He was in a different world than he was ever used to being in. And for him to be thrown into the group of Triple H and company was a hell of a, you wake up one morning and here we are. So good kid. I wish he could have been more successful, but he did have a nice little run there. He still remembered. He wasn't on TV that much.
No, we had him on ad-free shows in the last year.
But I'm just saying he wasn't on TV that much.
No.
So, point I'm making with that is that he wasn't overexposed. material that he delivered was memorable. And that's a compliment, to say the least.
It's an incredible skit that gets a lot of people talking. A lot of people are saying, oh, they're just ripping off the NWO because the NWO did a Four Horsemen parody the year prior. But listen, there's nothing new or original in wrestling anymore. If it's good, it's good.
Right.
And this is stupid and silly, and certainly you couldn't do it today. But at the time, this was pretty doggone entertaining. What do you think?
It was. I liked it. I thought it was funnier than hell. Made me laugh, entertained me. And I'm not generally a big fan of comedy in pro wrestling.
Really?
If it's good comedy like that, then I'm okay. Have at it. But to have comedy forced upon me by those that aren't funny and don't know how to deliver a line, and their timing is the shits, doesn't do me any favors. And I don't think it helps anybody. I'm not against comedy in wrestling. I'm against bad comedy in wrestling, I guess. And everybody can't be a comedian. You know, who would have thought Kurt Angle, this killer from Clarion University, NCAA champion, Olympic gold medalist, would have one of the best senses of humor that we would have on the roster.
Right.
His background didn't indicate that. We had to find it out. And, you know, the images of him wearing that little cowboy hat still are vibrant in my mind. So you just never know. You never know, but you can really shit the bed quickly with bad comedy. And you can also, like this vignette we just were talking about, how it got over is a testament to really good talent work.
Yes. Well, I'll tell you what, if you've got some really good talent and you're looking to put on a strong performance, can I recommend BlueChew? You knew where I was going. Boys and girls, BlueChew is a day one sponsor with us here, and they're on every single week. You know why? Because it really works. And if you haven't tried it, what are you waiting for? It's going to increase your performance and get you that extra confidence in bed. Think of it as like PEDs for your wiener. BlueChew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredient as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but in chewable form. You can take them anytime, day or night, or you can plan ahead and be ready whenever an opportunity arises. And the process really couldn't be any simpler. You sign up at BlueChew.com, you consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. And here's the best part. It's all done online. That means no awkward visits to the doctor's office, no uncomfortable conversation, no waiting in line at the pharmacy. It's made right here in the USA and shipped discreetly to your front door. You just can't beat it. BlueChew wants to help you have better sex, so discover your options at BlueChew.com. Chew it and do it. And we got a special deal for our listeners. Try BlueChew free when you use our promo code JR at checkout. Just pay the $5 shipping. That's BlueChew.com. The promo code is JR, and you'll receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank BlueChew for sponsoring today's podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, free is a good word.
Yeah.
Pardon me. And it's certainly worth the money. It does work. You know, when we first started, I remember Bischoff, he discovered BlueChew. It was like utopia.
Oh, yeah.
He talked about it all the time, which is good. It's what you're supposed to do for a sponsor. But the thing about, do you use it? Well, at 71 years of age, I use it on special occasions. And I've never disappointed myself or anybody else with the results. It's so simple. It's not habit forming. Well, it might be, in the sense that if you enjoy a nice, strong erection, strong like bull.
Oh, wow.
Heard that in a John Wayne movie one time. So you can be strong like bull. That should be a fucking T-shirt, bull. God damn it. Strong like bull.
With a big eggplant on it. Yeah.
With what? What'd you say?
A big eggplant. An eggplant emoji. Check it out. BlueChew.com. Use the promo code JR. You'll be glad you did. Speaking of eggplant, we got Mark, Mero, and Jacqueline out here talking about how Sable has been unable to fulfill all of Mark Mero's needs.
Uh-oh.
And Sable's going to come out and say that Mark Mero needs Viagra. These days, she would have said BlueChew.
Exactly.
Jackie calls Sable a skank and challenges her to a bikini contest of Fully Loaded. This is not something you would see on TV these days, but bikini contests. I mean, this scantily clad diva era is upon us. It's got to do monster ratings. What do you think the Cowboy would have thought of that type presentation?
Well, he wouldn't have booked it, number one. He might want to see it in a hotel room later on. He's a big red-blooded all-American guy. I'm kidding about that, Bill. Bill's in his 80s. He's healthy. He lives in the Branson, Missouri area, for those that ask. And I still love him. The best ass chewers I ever got, other than my old man, who whipped my ass for not watering the dog, is Cowboy. And I go back and look at those ass chewings. Every one of them, folks, had a message.
Yeah.
So if you're going to chew somebody's ass out that you're close to, children, by the way, could be that. Make sure your ass chewing's got a message in it. Don't do it just for the sake of being loud and turning up your volume and belittling whomever you're speaking with. There's got to be some soul to the message and a meaning for raising your voice and being a dick or whatever else you got. But here's the thing. When old school guys like myself or Patterson, probably not so much Bruce is more open-minded than I was. You got to remember our audience is we have a huge audience is 18 to 34.
Mm-hmm.
And advertisers are selling that number to the sponsors, which are paying the bills for these rights fees and so forth and so on. So when somebody would protest that sort of content, they would be reminded very promptly, hey, look, we're trying to find males 18 to 34 and bring them to our show. You don't think this might help? And you couldn't argue out of it. You can't make a valid argument, well, how many people are going to run off? If you're following it up with something good or you're billboarding something good on the show that night, then for the hardcores, the wrestling fans, you should be okay. For those that are moderate fans, but they're 18 to 34 and they have their genitalia, they're going to like the swimsuit. And the swimsuit on this show took it to a different level.
And they have their genitalia. That's a call I never thought I'd hear from Jim Ross, but you only hear it here on Grilling JR.
You're welcome. You get all the good stuff, all the materials here, buddy.
The three-way dance here in the main event is really something special. So it's supposed to be Kane and Mankind and the Undertaker to determine who is going to be the number one contender. So Vince is going to be down there. Steve Austin's going to come ringside. They're going to sit on either side of the announce desk. We've really gimmicked this up, and it's fantastic. But here's what's fun. The Undertaker's music plays not once but twice, and he never comes out. So McMahon's going to jump in the ring and make the announcer say, due to the fact the Undertaker isn't here because he is chicken shit, Mankind will wrestle Kane one-on-one. And he also says the match will be no holds barred, falls count anywhere. And Mankind says, I've given enough and I'm not going to give any more. I will not, under any circumstances, fight my friend Kane. And then Kane steps out of the ring, grabs a chair, and he starts nailing Mankind. Eventually, he throws Mankind in, scores the pin, and then the big swerve, the big reveal. Kane takes his mask off. It was actually the Undertaker dressed as Kane. What a swerve, bro. This was a classic angle. Such a cool moment on Monday Night Raw history. What do you think of this angle and the execution?
Well, I thought as a result of what happened in Pittsburgh, the creative took good care of Mick because he didn't have to bump around everywhere like a rubber ball in that presentation. What was uncanny to me was I never fully realized just how much in Kane gear that the Undertaker looked. He could pass. He was passable, and it was a smart angle. I don't know who come up with it. It don't matter now, but maybe Vince, maybe Taker, maybe Kane. I don't know, but it was a good idea. Whomever came up with it, and it caught us all with our pants down around our ankles. I love for that to happen.
Maybe not the best idea we had here to announce that we're going to run a special house show on August 8th, and we're going to kick this on sale off on July 1st. And the concept is we're trying to promote tickets for a non-pay-per-view at Foxborough Stadium, the home of the New England Patriots. And I guess it's going to be co-promoted by the Patriots, and they're going to call the event Footbrawl. And to get everyone to come buy tickets and pay attention, they do an arm wrestling match with Vince McMahon and Steve Austin. This is all held on a lagoon near the Cambridge Mall Galleria. There's a few thousand fans there to see it, and they put on quite a little show. And of course, after Austin beats McMahon, he asked the crowd, who wants to see Vince McMahon get thrown in this damn lagoon? Well, of course, that happens. And if you're watching over on YouTube, you can see that not only does Vince take the dive in front of all those fans there right outside the mall, and this was probably a
folks there. Look at that background shot there. If you're watching on what are we going to watch on?
What do you think? 2,000 to 4,000 folks there, maybe?
Yeah, it was good. It was good. I'm not sure. I have sketchy memory of that day, but enough to think I might have been there just behind the scenes because Michael Hayes did the PA.
And Michael Hayes, as you see there on camera, he's in a suit over there, or at least wearing a jacket. Yep. He too is going to take a dive, but I imagine that was not necessarily part of the plan.
I don't think it was.
Yeah.
What's he going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
Bitch about it.
Yeah.
That's what the Freebirds do. God damn it.
Nabes.
I love Michael actually.
So they sold 2,000 tickets. $60,000 is all. I say all because in this era, that's viewed as a disappointment. And as a reminder,
bad venue.
This isn't an arena. It's a doggone football stadium. You guys rise up and just cancel it a week later. I mean, that's one of the rare missteps of 1998, is it not?
Yeah, just wrong venue. People just didn't want to. It's not in Boston. It's in Foxborough.
Right.
It's in a suburb. You got to drive to it. And Patriot fans know that. It's an all-day deal to go to a Patriots game. Travel, parking, all that stuff. So, wrong venue. Maybe I didn't show up because I didn't want to be tied to a failure. But I truly believe that it was doomed from day one. It just didn't feel right. Didn't feel like it's the right venue, and it wasn't like going to the Garden. It would have been better off at where the Jets play and the Giants, but didn't happen.
Austin and Foley are going to miss house shows after that TV taping. They're both still pretty banged up. Of course, Austin was fighting off that staph infection in his elbow, and we know what Foley went through at King of the Ring.
Yeah.
But while he's taking off here, Steve Austin is asked to do something that's pretty big time. He does a photo shoot to be on the cover of TV Guide.
Yeah.
And I realize that seems like a foreign concept these days with the way.
That was a big deal.
Yeah.
That was a really big deal, Conrad. And I know Steve personally was very proud of that accomplishment because, I think he told me one time that his mom always had a copy of TV Guide in the living room. So for others of the same ilk, they were, hey, I used to read the TV Guide every week. And you know why? I like working the crossword puzzle. So I was a crossword puzzle working son of a bitch in TV Guide. And I got it every week. Dad didn't want to screw with it. He told me one time if I thought I was so smart, I'd do it in ink. He's such a wonderful guy. So anyway, but yeah, the crossword puzzle is my conduit to the TV Guide. But Steve was really tickled with that. I think he was very proud because it got such great distribution. It was a hell of a deal for WWE.
Talk to me about Shawn Michaels. He's going to come out on the next Monday Night Raw and at least try to be a color commentator here. And he's doing this as a total baby face, shaking hands and being the good guy. He's not playing a heel. But Meltzer would write, The dude's making 15 grand a week, staying home, saying he can't wrestle, so they got to get some value out of him. What do you remember about trying Sean here on the headsets?
Well, I thought it was worth a shot. Smart guy, understood the business, had a real good gift of gab. If he could pick up the cadence and the timing elements required of an announcer, that's one thing about what's happening in AEW right now. They just signed Ian Riccoboni to a contract, and Ian really distinguished himself in Calgary. I thought he and Nigel McGuinness had a hell of a night, and I don't trust anybody any more than Ian Riccoboni to get the stuff in. And so we've got a great anchor with Excalibur, and another great anchor with Ian Riccoboni, and you just got to try it and see what kind of chemistry there is between teams. The team of Taz and Tony Schiavone and Excalibur is excellent. They really are excellent. And they're getting their timing together. They're not talking over each other. They're trying not, I think, not to use so fucking many pronouns. And then Nigel and Ian had a hell of a night, and that's leaving out Kevin Kelly in this debate. He'll be back, as I understand it, to do Collision, but I don't know how that's going to work out. I don't have any idea. But anyway, you just got to see they got chemistry, Connie. The skill set it takes to have the patience to talk in sound bites and not make your dialogue about you. That's what we were waiting to see, how that was all going to transfer.
It's a fun era for a lot of new characters and trying new things like Sean on the headsets. And Jason Sensation gets his moment in the sun here. He's going to start doing these Owen impressions while he's on the headsets with you guys. Right. And we get a backstage shot of Owen, and he is just seething. Eventually, as you might imagine, Owen's going to come out here and really put the beat down on Jason. Even go ahead and put him in the sharpshooter. Jason's tapping out. Of course, it's not a match. No. The Nation is trying to pull him off, and he's refusing to let go. This is good stuff. I like this version of the heel Owen. Why don't you think we saw more of that pissed off heel Owen?
I don't know. Good question. Certainly seemed like what we did worked.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, so you'd think we'd go back to something that worked. If you're a booker out there and you got something that works, don't be afraid to revisit it. Now, you might want to tie a different color bow on it. You might want to put a different color coat of paint on it. Hell, I don't know. But if it worked once, if done properly, it will work again.
Dave Meltzer makes a great observation about what they're doing with Val Venus. He's recapping the segment on Raw where Val does a promo where we see Mrs. Yamaguchi-san under the sheets with him. And Meltzer would say, obviously this was going to happen, but it seemed about 6 weeks premature on the angle. Anyway, it's kind of funny that they do the modernized version of Jake and Cheryl Roberts with Rick Rude. But nowadays, Rick Rude not only gets to sleep with Cheryl, but by the 3rd week, he's the clear-cut babyface for doing so. That is remarkable to think about how different the business is from 88 to 98, is it not?
Yeah, but those 18 to 34-year-olds, man.
Yeah.
They got strong libidos, and they love the sitting on the edge and peeking in. And so it wasn't a surprise it was going to work.
I want to ask your opinion about titles. It feels like this era is where we start to see titles flip-flopping a lot more. We just talked about the fact there was a title change at King of the Ring, and then again the night after.
Yeah.
So we have that tape draw, but now we're back with a live show where we see Mankind and Kane team up to beat the New Age Outlaws and win the tag straps with a little help from D'Lo Brown. But still, we're flopping the titles back and forth. We know that Vince Russo, who was in charge of a lot of this at the time creatively, says belts are props. And on some level, I get what he means. It is a storytelling device. What do you think of that?
Well, in essence, he's right. They are props. But they're not props that should be disregarded or passed around like they were, dessert, last piece of pie in catering.
Right.
That's not good. You never want to eat that last piece of pie in catering, by the way. It's bad luck. Well, I don't know, Conrad. I don't know the answer to that question. That's a good one. I don't want to make something up.
Right.
I just don't know. It just, again, if something's working, I ain't dancing away from it. I'm going there. I'm going toward it.
No, I hear you. And you did hear. I mean, the next week or the next day, you have a taped Raw. And on the taped Raw, we would see D'Lo win the European title from Triple H. Another step in the right direction for D'Lo. This is doing a lot more for D'Lo than it is for Hunter. I mean, at this point, Hunter doesn't need to be the European champion. This is a
Correct.
big moment for D'Lo, right?
Yeah, it was, especially a Hunter passing the torch in for that title. So yeah, it was a good deal. It was a deserved. I mean, D'Lo did everything right. He came to work on time. He was cooperative. He contributed to the creative. Good guy. And so it just shows that if you do good things enough and long enough, it can be reciprocal.
We should talk about Sunday Night Heat. This episode, this taped Raw, is where we see our first promo announcing that is going to become a show on the USA Network on August 2nd. Is USA just ordering more content? They see how well this is doing in the ratings and think, hey, we want y'all to do another show? Or are you guys taking that idea to them to almost work as a preview for your pay-per-views?
Oh, I think it was a team effort, but the previews, the pay-per-views was a solid concept.
Yes.
But USA wanted more programming. And when your partner that's paying you all these rights fees wants more, what do? You give them more. And because it's on Sunday night, it was kind of a wasteland night on television for us. It certainly, helped. It made a good infomercial for the pay-per-view. It's going to lead. It was the lead into the pay-per-view. When we had one on Sunday, so didn't think it was a bad idea, and we made our partner happy. That's awful important.
Well, I know you guys are making Dan Severn happy. You're getting him a spot on the show. He's going to be announced as being the special guest referee for the Ken Shamrock Owen Hart dungeon match at the show, Fully Loaded. Do you think in hindsight, Dan ever had a chance of getting over in the WWE, or was it just doomed from the start?
Oh God, doomed is such a hard, strong, cold word, Connie. Dan Severance, I mentioned earlier about Paul Ellering coming into the locker room and how I valued that. I mean, part of that concept is how I end up getting to hire Mick. I pushed so hard for Mick because I knew he would be great in our locker room and would have the time as a veteran and a guy that was perceived as somebody with a body of work would, would be good in the locker room. Same thing here. Dan Severn's a good coach, great teaching fundamentals.
Yep.
But I think he really still wanted that one shot at becoming the top guy. The problem with that is that Dan, although a wonderful human being, I'd love to have him in the locker room, but we couldn't justify the salary for him to be a coach. And it was thought by the creative process that Danny didn't have the charisma, the over-the-top charisma that he needed to get over in WWE in that time.
Let's mention that Sable and Jackie are going to have another clothes ripping off segment here. That's just sort of par for the course, I suppose. And we've also
you
got.
Say that like you're depressed about it.
No. I'm just saying, I don't think we can do it these days, but it was a staple of television back then, at least for WWE. Like they would try some of this stuff in WCW once Russo was over there, but in this era, that wasn't something you saw on Nitro. So if you're into that, boy, you were switching the channels for that, no doubt.
Well, again, go back to your core demo.
Yeah, dudes.
Look, when you talk about StarCast,
yeah,
you know where your audience is.
Yeah.
You know how to find them. You know where they are, who they are. You've identified your audience. All we were doing was using the television ratings and our sales feedback regarding the 18 to 34 male demo. Okay, so what can you provide the 18 to 34-year-old male demo that will make them come back? One is violence. One is blood. They go hand in hand. The second thing is controlled presentation of sex. And that's kind of what these bikini things were meant to do. Stimulate the libido of the young 18 to 34-year-old guy.
Let's mention we've got a big main event segment. You got Austin, Taker, Mankind, Kane, and Vince. They're all in these segments throughout the show. And of course, in the final show, the go home edition, if you will, for the pay-per-view. And we should talk about just how crazy the business has grown. I mean, you and I reviewed Canadian Stampede 1997, one of our favorite pay-per-views of all time.
Yep.
An unbelievable crowd, an unbelievable main event. But in July 97, that show only does 165,000 buys. Not bad, but goodness gracious. July of 98 here, Fully Loaded does 305,000 buys. Whew. The business has changed quickly. Yep. How much of that do you credit with the Mr. McMahon character? How much is just the attitude? Does some belong to Tyson, or is it all about Steve Austin?
Well, it's a lot about Steve Austin, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
It's just hard to replicate or understate his importance. We would eventually see how important he was when he got hurt and he couldn't do it for a time. You know, Conrad, I think about this stuff I learned from you. I think about the economy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how the economy was at that point in time. If there was more disposable income than previously in that same period the year before, then there's our answer. People couldn't afford them. But you still got to, I'll say this, and this is true for time immemorial. Pay-per-views are driven by their main event attraction.
Yes.
If you got a strong main event and you're sure of it, you've just taken a giant step towards success. Pay-per-views are driven by the attraction. And all those names you just mentioned, kind of the biggest stars in the world at that time.
They are.
So anything less, you say, might be a huge disappointment based on the level of talents participating in that presentation.
It's an incredible show, and man, the business is just so hot. It's a sellout, as you might imagine. We've got 9,855 fans here. There's $179,000 gate, around $72,000 in merch, but it's totally sold out at the Selland Arena just a few days ahead of time, or several days
in Fresno, where you can always smell garlic.
Is that the deal?
Yeah, that's the area.
Okay.
So just throwing it in there.
Well, this show got a thumbs down in the Observer. Let's break down what was going on. But before we do, I should remind everybody that each and every day, you and I start our day with a delicious scoop of AG1. That's all it is. One scoop and a cup of water, and you're all set. Think of it as like your foundational nutritional platform. It's going to help you support your energy and your focus and your strength and your clarity. And it's 75 high-quality vitamins, probiotics, and whole food source superfoods. Think about that. Where else can you get that with just one scoop? Think of it as like your all-in-one nutritional insurance. My wife uses it first thing every morning before she goes to the gym, and she feels like she has more productive workouts. It aids in her recovery. I know I'm more productive at work thanks to AG1. I used to have an afternoon crash. I don't have that anymore, and I credit a lot of that to AG1. So if you're looking to boost that immune system, maybe you hate taking pills or vitamins, maybe if you're going to do this, you want a supplement that tastes good, man, AG1 checks all the boxes. And don't just take our word for it. Go look at their reviews. You're going to see these guys have thousands and thousands and thousands of 5-star reviews. When was the last time you went out of your way to leave a 5-star review? I mean, this is a fantastic product. It tastes great. It's good for you. You got to at least look at it. If you're looking for a simpler, effective investment for your health, try AG1 and get 5 free AG1 travel packs and a 1-year supply of vitamin D with your first purchase. Just go to drinkag1.com/JR. That's drinkag1.com/JR. Check it out. You'll be glad you did. It is fantastic taste, though. You're going to love it. Drinkag1.com/JR.
It's fertilizer for your body.
There you go. I love that.
Fertilizer for your body. A1. AG1.
Val Venus is going to be out here, and he's going to pin Jeff Jarrett in 7 minutes and 50 seconds. Venus teases that he's going to take off his trunks, but he's interrupted by Jarrett's music and the voice of Colonel Parker. And Kai and Ty's out here. Wally is out here, and Wally's on commentary. And Meltzer says,
"Yeah, he was."
Meltzer says, "Bad move." He spent 8 minutes trying to say there would be a surprise on Raw for Venus. I mean, I understand that we've done this a lot. We've seen this a lot just on this show, guys joining you at the desk. But maybe we didn't need that for Wally. What say you?
Yeah, I kind of agree. Agree. Wally, nice guy. But you know, how many times is "You Love Me Long Time" going to be funny?
Right. Next up, we got D'Lo Brown, who we know is the European champion, and he's going to be wrestling X-Pac. And it's announced originally as being a European title match, but then they switch it to a non-title, which I found interesting because, well, D'Lo still won, so it wouldn't have mattered either way. Meltzer says match had no heat. He only gave it a 1.25 stars. I think people in hindsight maybe didn't give the respect or recognition to Sean Waltman and D'Lo Brown. Like, these are two criminally underrated performers. You go back and watch their stuff, it still stands up today.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And two really good people. There were times in Sean Waltman's career where he had a bump or two in the road.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he's come out of it. And one of my favorite people. He asked me one time if I was paying him I think it might have been him or Blackman. Asked if I was paying them by the pound, which indicated they weren't happy with their payoff. But anyway, yeah, both the guys deserve more respect than they are normally anointed.
Next up is something you wouldn't imagine ever happened, but what a fun tag match this is. Farouk teaming up with Too Cold Scorpio, two guys that we saw on a tear in WCW. Now here they are in the WWE. And they're taking on Terry Funk and Bradshaw. Man, what a fun pairing that is. If you're watching over on YouTube, that just looks like a fun tag team right there, doesn't it, Jim?
Yeah, that was Bradshaw living his dream because one of his boyhood heroes was now his tag team partner.
It's crazy.
Pardon me. You'll find out that every roster, if you went through and polled them all, you would find out that Terry Funk would be one of their dream opponents across the board because he could do hardcore stuff. He'd done the flying stuff back in the day. Obviously, as the NWA champion, he could chain or mat wrestle. But his personality and setting with Terry before your match with him, if he allowed you to do that without going over every spot ad nauseum, God almighty, I don't understand how the guys do that. I don't know how you maintain your enthusiasm and your edge if you talk about an 8-minute match for 2 hours.
Right.
To me, it's just totally illogical. Unless you just want to memorize every spot, and then when it come hell or high water, you're going to try to get those spots in, whether they're working or not. So, yeah, I thought that was a unique booking, and anything Terry Funk's involved in something, I know I wanted to watch.
Absolutely. This is a fun match. You see in the pre-match promo, Terry Funk announces that this is going to be his last match for 6 months. Bradshaw is pissed off by this, acting as if that's all news to him. The actual match itself is pretty fun for what it was. It only goes 6:51. And Meltzer is pretty complimentary of Bradshaw, which may be the first time. He says, while Bradshaw still comes off as an uncharismatic, overpush, bland WWF big guy type.
God damn.
Right? There's the comma.
Woo.
His work has really gotten better this year. So listen, I understand that Dave certainly is predisposed to liking what he likes and all that sort of thing. We all have our favorites and things we like. But I thought Bradshaw in 97 really started to catch his stride. And by 98, he felt like he belonged to me. I mean, he's going to.
He got it. He finally, I want to say finally, he eventually got to where he was looking to be.
Yeah.
And his game, and what he did well, and trying to roll into a package just doesn't happen overnight. So it was accumulated and mashed and all deep fried or whatever. But all of a sudden, he was a very viable hand to the point where he became the world champion.
It's fun to see, Simmons standing across from Bradshaw here. I mean, we know by the end of the year they're going to be packaged together as APA, but that hasn't happened yet here. So to see them across from each other on pay-per-view is kind of fun. I wish I could say the same thing about the next match. Mark Henry and Vader. It's 5 minutes and 3 seconds. We've decided we're not going to do much with Vader, and we don't here either. Mark gets the win. Meltzer says, clearly it's time for Vader to move on, but at this stage of his career, there may be nowhere left to go. No disrespect to Mark Henry. I mean, he's still young in the game, and it's his time, and I get it. But it is sad when you think, man, what could have been with Vader? And it's clearly just not going to happen here.
No, Leon couldn't beat his weight in a sense that he had a challenging time with his weight. And we knew that anytime you get a guy, and Mark Henry was the same way, but he was so much younger that his weight wasn't affecting him as adversely as Leon's was. And, Leon just was one of those old tough offensive linemen with the Colorado Buffaloes and the LA Rams, that he just believed that he was still that guy. And he wasn't, unfortunately. And I love Leon, God almighty. I took Leon and his son on their recruiting trip, and the kid came to Oklahoma to decommit from UCLA and commit to my Sooners. I was so respectful of Leon because he trusted me enough to know that I wasn't going to allow his son to get in any trouble. And he was a 5-star recruit. And unfortunately, injuries caught up with him. He never got to play a lot at OU. But he was a big, strong kid, just like his old man, strong as a bull. So I always had a soft spot, trying to say, for Leon. But I was saddened the fact that, at least to me, it was obvious that there weren't that many matches left in Leon that we could use.
We should mention that up next is a little storytelling. We get Mankind, Kane, and Paul Bearer coming out, and they're explaining that the Undertaker's not there. He's not even in the building. We haven't seen him. We don't know where he is. And here come the New Age Outlaws. They come out and they want to challenge Mankind and Kane for a tag title shot tomorrow night on Raw. And that sets up a tag match. We get DOA versus LOD 2000. For some reason, these guys have 8 minutes and 50 seconds. Meltzer would say, again, no heat at all, but it started out as a fast-paced match with both teams more aggressive than usual. They really tried, but they just don't work together well. But this was worlds better than any of their house show matches. So he doesn't hate it, but it's a quarter star. And he says, what has killed LOD besides themselves is that their whole aura was based on not doing jobs. And in this environment, they can't be protected like that anymore. But in the WWF, every wrestler uses a DDT as a transition move, and it's the most overdone maneuver in the entire federation that nobody ever loses to. So when LOD lose to it, it just leaves them that much more dead. Is Dave on to something that you couldn't just have teams get steamrolled in this era? Like that just wouldn't work anymore?
I think that's a little overanalyzation, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
The DDT. It depends who's executing. I agree that the transition spot bullshit is true. I also believe that if we were doing our correct due diligence, that there were certain moves that would be banned except for certain guys. Everybody can't use the DDT because they're just going to whore it out, prostitute it out as a transitional thing, meaningless. Has no pop. So I told somebody that one time, not that long ago, maybe 6 months ago in AEW. I said, you can't beat anybody with a DDT, or you haven't. Is that because you don't do it well? Or what is the reason? Because it's the same move, looks the same, everything's the same, and it used to be a killer, and everybody used to be in awe of it. Now, talented guys like you can't even beat anybody with it. Explain that to me so I can understand how to explain it on television. They couldn't. It's just a spot to get them to the next spot. That's all. And that's not good strategy. So I don't know if I buy into Dave's. I understand his point. I'm not saying he's wrong. I think it may be a little bit overthought. I don't think DDT or no, there's going to be a lot of things we could do to get those big twins over, or LOD. We could get them to a certain level and all that. They'd be good in the live events, et cetera, et cetera. And Don and Ron are good dudes. Good dudes. But just wasn't going to work. Just wasn't going to work. The company was not going to commit the time and the money anymore in either of those teams. At least that was my outlook on it.
Let's talk about maybe one of the first cinematic matches ever. It's Owen Hart versus Ken Shamrock in the basement of Stu Hart's home.
Yep.
Of course, we're calling it the Dungeon. We're in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. This was taped a few days ahead of time. And there's obviously going to be challenges. There's no crowd. And you're going to have to make this look, quote unquote, real. And they're really doing a fight, but there's no ring. I mean, this is a real challenge. In the end, Owen Hart gets the win. It's a 3-star affair, according to Dave. I liked it at the time. I thought it was different. It was a little silly at times, using the weights and throwing their heads into the walls and all that. But given the limitations they had in a match like this, I don't know that they could have done any better. What say you?
I enjoyed it. I just featured Shivani.
Everybody likes when we feature Shivani.
Yeah.
What do you think of the concept of having a match in the Dungeon?
Well, because of the uniqueness of it, we talked about the Dungeon all these years. All these guys have been trained there and stretched there by Stu Hart. One of the great storytellers about the Dungeon was the late superstar Billy Graham. He was brought to his so-called milk by Stu. And Stu loved beating those big guys. God almighty, just was almost orgasmic, I was told. Just loved it. And I was in the Dungeon with Stu Hart. And I lived to tell about it. Because I tapped quickly. He's going to show me something. I said, okay, here it goes. I need to let it get right to the edge where it's going to kill me. Then I need to tap. I probably tapped a little early. Because I didn't want any more pain.
Right.
There's so many ways he could hurt you. And those goddamn double wrist locks, or it's got to be called on TV now, the Kimura.
Yeah.
Kimura my ass. How's that? That's a t-shirt for you. Kimura my ass. It's a double wrist lock. It's always been a double wrist lock. And so some famous guy, some tough guy in Japan named Kimura came up with a double wrist lock, which had already been created. But anyway, I'm on another tangent. Where were we, Conrad?
Well, we're talking about our next skit here on the program.
Oh yeah, the Stampede thing. I like that. I'm with you. I thought it was different enough to hold my interest for the 4 or 5 minutes it was going to be.
Yeah.
And I thought all three guys did a good job. Like you said, there's no crowd noise.
Yeah.
We're in a family basement.
Yes.
We're not at the arena. So it was a cool thing in that regard. I thought those guys good. And I thought it worked. It made sense. And we got the right guy over. Got Owen over, right?
Oh, yeah. No doubt.
So there you go.
We should also mention that we continue this story. Vince is going to come out with Pat, Gerald, and Sergeant Slaughter, and they're going to continue to tease the idea that The Undertaker appears to have no-shown the main event. So they're going to announce that it is his duty as promoter to give the fans, the paying fans of the WWE universe, a suitable replacement for the main event. It's Brooklyn Brawler. This is fantastic. I mean, what a good sport he is in this moment.
Yeah.
What a great move this is by Vince. This is fun. I really like this.
A lot of this is Patterson's folly. You know, Patterson and Brawler, you know, Patterson had kind of taken the Brawler under his wing back in the day. And Brawler would go to the towns if he wasn't even booked. He would pay his own trans. He'd go to the towns because in that era, Conrad, there was always some, how do I put it? Some irresponsible dick that no-showed or called in, I can't make my flight or I can't do this. So point being, as sad as it was, the infrastructure was so loose and guys were missing shots, and Brawler knew that, and he had all his gimmicks with him. It could be the knuckleball shorts or kimchi or whatever.
Doink. He could do it all.
Yeah, and he made money. He made a living.
Yeah.
Doing it until he finally got a contract. And he worked for me, talent relations, for a good while as he'd coordinate all the interviews at the TVs. Because generally the guys had rather go do their interviews as listen to Brawler rag on their ass, which I appreciated Brawler doing that. He got his job done. So he got the interviews done. So, yeah, Brawler's an interesting character. Forgot he paid his own trans and went to all the towns. Wasn't even booked. But he knew because of the track record of some of his peers, oh, there'll be some openings for you. And there were.
The next match is a time limit draw. It's a 2 out of 3 falls match for the Intercontinental title with Rocky Maivia and Triple H. And this summer is really battleground for these two guys. I think everybody paying attention recognizes that, you know, one was a foil of Steve Austin's through the second half of 1997 and early 1998. And the other was the right-hand man to the top heel and a big part, and I guess now the leader of a babyface act in DX. So everybody knows, hey man, these guys beyond the nation and beyond DX, one of these guys is going to emerge as the next top guy alongside Steve Austin. And who will it be? And this feels like the summer is sort of based on that. We saw the parody skits. Now we're getting a 2 out of 3 falls match. We're going to continue this rivalry at SummerSlam with a crazy ladder match that's unlike the other ones you've seen at MSG. What do you think of having these guys go 30 minutes to a draw on pay-per-view?
Loved it. Loved it, Conrad. If the performance art is up to speed, and with those two guys, I'd never discount them. You know, I signed both guys. I've believed in both guys since before the ink was dry on their contracts. So it wasn't a shock to me. And I was happy they were getting the opportunity. I was more happy that Vince saw greatness in both guys and was more than willing to push them and give them the tools they needed to get over and become the bigger stars that they were and that they would eventually become. So I loved it. I like shit like that. The 2 out of 3 falls like a 3-chapter book.
Yes.
You got a beginning, you got a middle, you got an end. And if the end's going to be a finish, fine. There's going to be a time limit draw, fine. But it's whatever you're going to do is logical. And that's one of the situations where you give the fans plenty of wrestling before you exceed the time limit. But they got their wrestling in. They got their wrestling fix. You just didn't get a finish at the end of a pinfall or submission. I didn't have a problem with it whatsoever. I thought it was great. I love the storytelling and things like that. Those guys are so good, and they had so much confidence in what they were doing that they just didn't falter. It was perfect booking. I thought it was great.
They're trying to time the finish where Triple H is going to hit the pedigree and the bell would ring. They miss it by just a little bit, but still, what a fantastic match. Meltzer liked it too, gave it 3 1/4 stars. I mean, it's probably fair to say at this point, this is more than just an on-screen rivalry. I mean, these guys have a professional rivalry as well, right? Triple H and The Rock.
Yeah, somewhat. I'd
Yeah.
say so. Somewhat, yeah. I watched the. I can't remember what network it was on. Probably think A&E. The rivalry between Cena and Rock. And did you see that?
I did. It was good. It was on A&E, right?
I think it might have been A&E. I can't remember. I think it probably was. Now that you mention it. Wasn't crazy about all the. We need to apologize. It's a fucking job. If somebody gets their feathers ruffled and their feelings hurt over somebody else doing their job, then shame on you.
Yeah, get over it.
Get over it.
Yeah.
You're getting paid a lot of money. And that I know. I'm not guessing. It came out of my pencil, passed the pay-per-view, and then passed on to the old man. So you're getting compensated really, really well. In some cases, you're making more in a night than your peers made in their last year.
Yep.
And in the case of Dwayne, he was making more in one night than the great Rocky Johnson was in a season, in a whole year. I just can't see that as being how that's. And of course, Dwayne didn't bitch about his pay.
Right.
I don't remember him ever having any issues on his pay. He got paid well. And when you have a formula, I think Dwayne got 5% because we had to match. We matched Austin's 5% of the net, meaning that the number you arrive at after taxes is what you base your pay on, those guys. So in other words, if your net's $100,000, you make 5.
I got you.
If the net is, $200,000, you make 10 grand. And those guys are always asking what the house was. Guess what? Was it their deep concern that the marketing department was doing a good job? Oh, I don't think so. They needed some numbers to do the math, to figure out what they're going to make that night. And then that didn't include merch.
Right.
So don't cry for me, Argentina.
Yeah, sounds like they're going to be just fine.
Yeah, I think they are. Yeah, you're right.
So are the ladies. Before we get this Sable skit that everybody remembers, and I think, everybody remembers Mankind, Hell in a Cell, King of the Ring in June in Pittsburgh. But I think a whole bunch of dudes around, I don't know, 40, 41, 42, they remember Fully Loaded with Sable. And this is that segment. Miss Jackie's going to come out and have strings for a bikini and get quite a reaction. And of course, Sable is going to claim that the evil Mr. McMahon is asking that she dress conservatively. And she takes off her little halter top and reveals body paint shaped like hands over her breasts. This is
Lawler was classic there. Lawler made that segment as much as Sable's breasts.
Yes. Well, almost as much. I still say the breasts were better.
All right. I'm sure
what a segment this is. I mean, this is, I know it sounds silly to say this, but this is a major moment in her career, is it not?
Hell yeah. Nobody ever done anything like that.
No.
Ever. And I thought Miss Jackie came to play that night. She looked awesome.
No doubt.
My God, she was hot. So you got two really hot women, scantily attired, and you're going to tell me that that's not good for the male 18 to 34 demo? Okay, tell your story walking.
I wish in hindsight we wouldn't have had Dustin come out and pray for us before the segment. I mean, that's my only critique of it.
Did he? I forgot that.
He did. And Jackie did have a wardrobe malfunction before that was a thing. So if you were recording at home, you were probably looking at that like the old JFK film, back and to the left, back and to the left.
But the thing about that is, I don't think that was that aired on the replay.
Right. They may have edited it out. Yeah.
I think they did. Because I saw somebody hit me on social the other day on Twitter and said that something along the lines that they'd heard so much about it that when they bought the replay, it was been edited out. It pissed them off.
Isn't that fascinating to you that guys still, I want to see a nipple? Like, buddy, why are we getting excited about it? We're in our 40s, but Guys are still pulling money out of their wallet for that. It's a little crazy.
Yeah, nipple mania runs wild.
Nipple mania would make a great shirt. You know what? Me and you, we got to go out sometime. I think we could recreate nipple mania. The right, the right venue.
Got enough money in our pockets. We can recreate anything.
Roll Tide. Let's talk about the main event. The Undertaker is teaming up with Steve Austin, and they're going to be taking on Mankind and Kane.
See, there's a different mindset coming in this match, Conrad, than the Austin Undertaker singles. The tag match gave them both somewhere else to go, somebody else to play with. There was more of a comfort level in this tag than in the upcoming single.
It's interesting too, because if you take a look at this lineup here, everybody's hurt. The only person who's not hurt is Kane. You know, Mankind has been put through the ringer at the Hell in a Cell. Austin's still battling a staph infection in his elbow. Undertaker's got a litany of injuries, including the ankle, which was made worse in the King of the Ring. But maybe what's most interesting about this is the night where they changed the Undertaker's music. He's had that classic, iconic music since 1990, and they change it here. And Meltzer says he doesn't know that he would have done that. And they also tease, almost from the very beginning, that the Undertaker and Steve Austin, they can't possibly get along. They're going to have problems. They're going to break up. And Meltzer says Undertaker has put on some weight, probably because he can't train on that ankle, and it feels like he's gassing out. But again, everybody's working hurt. Everybody. Right. They tease the tombstone. Austin gets free, hits Kane with a chair, goes for the tag. And at first they're acting like the Undertaker won't tag in, but he eventually does tag in, chokeslams both Kane and Mankind, hits the tombstone on Kane, and that's it. So the Undertaker grabs both tag belts and leaves. That means Austin is in the ring without his tag title. But this is very similar to the story we told in the summer of 97. At the time, Austin was having a feud with Shawn Michaels, and they became tag team champions together. Now we're doing it a year later, except we know here the plan is to have these guys face off at the next pay-per-view. So it'll be Kane on the outside looking in, and it's Undertaker as a babyface versus Stone Cold as a babyface for SummerSlam. What did you think of the storytelling and how we got there and the decision to make these guys tag champs?
Well, I thought it was very territory-like.
Yeah.
And you got to remember that one of the primary decision makers in Vince's office was the king of the territories by the name of Pat Patterson. For a guy that can work 14 years in the same market and stay over and continue to draw money, you know a guy knows how to book a territory, a geographic territory. And then Pat had the same basic influence when he went to the AWA. He understood the rite of passage, what worked and what did not work, what you wanted to gravitate to and what you wanted to gravitate from in a wrestling territory. So to me, a lot of the things that we were doing were reminiscent of the territory days, because Cowboy used some of Roy Shire, and that's where Pat got a lot of his stuff. Roy Shire was a promoter and owner in San Francisco in that territory. Cowboy used a lot of those finishes, so I wasn't totally foreign to them. Multiple spot finishes involving more than one person. It wasn't new material, but it was new material for the national audience. And the way that Patterson put his little twists and turns on it made it extra special. So Patterson was a big hand in that. And any time in that era too, somewhat off course, you saw Rock in a big match, Patterson would always have his hands all over it. And I'm not saying it in a negative way. I mean, Rock was lucky and blessed that Patterson took a major interest in it. And that all came from Pat's love of the High Chief Peter Maivia, who was a huge star in that San Francisco territory. Remember, Patterson was there 14 years working on top. And you just don't do that. You don't hear that story very often. Maybe I got a good year, had a couple year run there. 14? It's pretty incredible.
StarCast returns to the Chicago area this Labor Day weekend. Tickets for StarCast 6 are now on sale at StarCast.com and include AEW All-Out Ticket Bundle options. Join us at the Hyatt Regency Schaumburg starting Friday night, September 1st, for unique fan experiences with wrestling legends from yesterday and superstars from today. Follow StarCast events on Twitter for the latest updates about all things StarCast. StarCast 6 is brought to you in part by ProWrestlingCrate.com. Monthly mystery crates for die-hard wrestling fans. Plans start at $9.95 and are the perfect gift for any wrestling fan. Visit ProWrestlingCrate.com today.
It is incredible. Let's do some questions, but before we do, I want to ask your opinion. You know, both the WCW pay-per-view that month and the WWF pay-per-view that month were strange bedfellow tag matches. 2 weeks prior to Fully Loaded here, where we had Kane tagging up with Mankind to take on the Undertaker and Stone Cold, WCW presented Hulk Hogan and Dennis Rodman against DDP and Karl Malone.
Right.
You guys had successfully used Mike Tyson to be a shot in the arm back in March at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Now we've put the title on Goldberg. We've got him white hot. The NWO still has some traction. We've got the crossover celebrity piece with these NBA stars. What did you think of their execution? And did you think it could be a real threat to what you guys were doing?
Not really, because I thought that it would become old hat to those guys. It was great when it was they were first doing it. It's before the new wore off, so to speak, but they still had careers. They had things they were doing and wanted to do. All we were stop. All WCW was, I should say, is a stopgap for a payday. So to me, they were going to have a little fun. They're going to party with the boys. They're going to have fun after the shows and all that good stuff. But the main thing they were there for was money. And once they made their money, because Turner wasn't going to pay those guys every week the kind of money that they were probably looking for. They'll okay, we'll pay you X to get us to the pay-per-view. Then for the pay-per-view, we'll pay you Y. And so I didn't think it was a big deal. And I also didn't think that the match quality had a chance to be really good, no matter how great athletes they were. Until they practiced and spent the time in a gym and a warehouse doing something, they gotta be active. They gotta work through it. And I didn't think they would be committed enough to do that on an ongoing basis.
Well,
but I'll tell you this, Conrad, while I'm thinking, a one-off though was concerning because they hadn't spoiled the pie yet. They hadn't changed nothing. We hadn't seen their game. So we assumed it was going to be good because they're great basketball players. We know they're great athletes, but we just didn't know how good they could be. But the first time out was the only time that was their most marketable opportunity, in my opinion.
We got to talk about this great question from Jason. He writes in, was this supposed to be the show that Austin was pitched to work with Mero, but refused to do it after Mark took the power bomb from Sable the pay-per-view before?
You know what? I don't think so. I think I had Mero on orders of Vince, who was in love with Sable, seemingly, as a character. I had Mark Mero booked in Anaheim, I think it was, against Austin. And Austin hardly ever read his booking sheets, but he read this one. And he called me and he's pissed off. I said, well, you got to tell me you don't want to work with somebody. How do I know? I can't read your fucking mind, Steve. Well, goddamn it, I don't want to work with him. I said, well, let me address it and I'll get back to you. Don't worry, everything will be fine. So Vince was the one that was pushing for Mero and Steve. I changed the main event and I didn't talk to Vince about it because I didn't normally do that. So I put Austin against somebody else. I remember who it was. It was a viable opponent, but somebody he felt comfortable working with. I had not correlated the Mark Mero power bombing Sable into this whole discussion. until I read that question, because that was never discussed by Steve. He just didn't like. He thought Mark worked a little loose, and needed to be more aggressive, et cetera, et cetera. And they could have had a latent pissing contest in WCW at some point in time. I don't know. But bottom line of it was Steve just didn't want to work with him, and instead of making it a big dramatic presentation and getting the whole world involved, I just changed it.
We should mention you guys ran 6 shows in Anaheim that year. You started in January. I don't think that was probably it. It probably wasn't March, but he would wrestle. He being Steve Austin would wrestle Triple H and get the win, probably just before intermission there. That was in March, but in May, and I think this might be it. We would see. That might not be though, because I don't see Mero on the card. Otherwise, it was Austin and Rock here with Dude Love as the special guest referee. But yeah, Mero wasn't even on that card, so maybe it was March. That's fascinating to me. I mean, I guess we should at least mention the you guys do a show Monday Night Raw from Anaheim the very next day. So July 27th is where you're doing that show. But I mean, you almost made it sounded like maybe a live event, not necessarily.
It was a live event.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that to be a fact. At least I'm just completely losing my mind.
No,
it was a live event because I could give Vince what he wanted with Mark Mero's situation and not put it on television because Austin was not comfortable with it.
That's interesting because, as I think everybody recalls, in April and May, Austin worked not 1, but 2 pay-per-view main events against Dude Love. So maybe one of those was supposed to be Mero because March 13th, 1998, there's that live event, 13,083 fans there. Cactus Jack is going to beat Billy Gunn. Steve Blackman's going to beat Farouk. Brian Christopher is in the opener. Mark Mero picks up a win over Chains, and then it's Steve Austin and Triple H with the stunner. And I think they probably went to intermission then because there's a lot more matches that followed. But that's probably it, man, to think that what could have been. Do you think that there would have been a way to book that believably? I mean, we know that he's a Golden Gloves box.
Austin did not want to work with him, Conrad.
Yeah.
We can't figure out a way between me and you and Einstein or even Dave Silva.
So it doesn't matter if it's a good idea. He don't want to do it. He ain't going to do it.
Yeah. And why would I be so stupid to force him to do it?
No, of course not.
It doesn't make any sense. You want to do all you can, all you're able to do in a realistic way to keep your top guy happy. And that's what I was doing. I wasn't going to forsake Austin's trust in me or the office.
Right.
To give Mark Mero some flowers. And I like Mark Mero. Hell,
right.
I've known him since he got started. And Dusty created that character, Johnny B. Bad. So I had no issue with Mark Mero. My star didn't want to work with him. And if you've read enough books about John Wayne as I have, you realize sometimes there are certain talents he liked working with and certain talents that he refused to work with.
Right.
And guess what? The directors, as great as they were, as much power as they had, didn't force their star to do anything that he was going to dislike. Being on a set, riding horses, being in the dust, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't going to happen. So same thing with Austin. We knew he was getting beat up. Sometimes he was short-tempered. But the last thing in the world, for God's sakes, Cowboy would kill me if I did that with a dog. And Vince should have killed me if I did that with his top star that has yet to be replaced.
No doubt. All these years later, yet to be replaced. Next week, we're going to talk about an idea that probably should have been replaced. We're going deep on Brawl for All. We'll talk about the concept. We'll talk about Dr. Death. We'll talk about, the real fights. We'll talk about Bart Gunn and the rumor and innuendo. But there's no rumor and innuendo about Kevin Sullivan. He's got a brand new show exclusively for adfreeshows.com. It's called Tuesdays with the Taskmaster. We're talking all things old school. This past week, man, we got a history lesson about the territory days, what Kevin thinks about the current product, booking the NWO, and so much more. Then, now, forever, Kevin Sullivan's been a part of pro wrestling, and now he's a part of adfreeshows.com. Check it out. I loved it. I think you will too. It's exclusively at adfreeshows.com. And by the way, if your business targets men that are 25 to 54 years old, man, we got them. And there's no better place to advertise than right here with us. Find out how easy and affordable it is to target those men 25 to 54 at advertisewithjr.com. Love to have your interaction on social. Jim is over on Facebook at Jim Ross BBQ. You can keep up with our show at JR Grilling on Twitter and Instagram. The show account on Facebook is Grilling JR. But Jim is real handy on Twitter. So check him out there at JR's BBQ. And speaking of JR's BBQ, man, you got something for everybody over at the website. My wife and I just grilled up huge chicken breasts yesterday. Liberal coating of the all-purpose seasoning. It's just undefeated, man. It tastes good on broccoli. It tastes good on corn. I've not found anything that the seasoning doesn't work on, Jim.
Yeah, it's good stuff, Connie. Thank you very much. You're one of our biggest endorser of that product. It is really good. And the only way that I can put my money where my mouth is to sell you a bottle and see if you like it. If you like everybody else has tried. We have never had one complaint, knock on wood. It's knocked on wood, about any, about the all-purpose seasoning ever. And I'm also anxious for everybody to try the JR's Red Ass hot sauce. It'll light you up. It's got a lot of personality, and we worked on it a long time. So if you're afraid, say you're afraid. But if not, on your next order, get you a bottle of that hot sauce. It's pretty good stuff.
Yeah, so, in the South, they like to say, if you're scared, say you're scared.
That's right.
I ain't scared of that hot sauce. Check it out, jrsbbq.com. Not just the delicious products that you might find in your cabinet or refrigerator, but also some collectible stuff over there at the website too, right, Jim?
Yeah, we got signed trading cards, limited edition cards, and I made a pretty good investment on action figures, the new AEW figure. And they're signed, and I'm going back to Oklahoma in a few days, and to see a doctor to see if he can help me with the sciatica. And I was telling Conrad this before we started recording today. He's a chiropractor named Dr. Ron Tripp, and Dr. Tripp's claim to fame athletically is that he was once a very noted MMA fighter.
Oh,
way back in the day. And he has a victory over one of the Gracies in the Gracie sport, which is pretty good, quite frankly. So I won't piss him off, but he's going to work on me for a few days to see if he can't get my sciatic under control. As my doctor would say, your back is very cranky right now. No shit, doc. I got that. So let's make it happy. So anyway,
dude, I just looked your doctor up. This dude's a badass.
Dr. Tripp?
Ronald Tripp, 70 years old, Battle Creek, Michigan, the Terminator, really skilled as a heavyweight in judo and sambo, 1994 world sambo champion, 7-time world medalist, 89 judo world champ. I mean, this is a legit badass. He's going to get your ass into shape, man. Good luck with that.
Yeah, we're going to have some fights. We're going to some bars, be some unsuspecting fat guys up. No,
I mean, my man fought 1,034 times, 984 wins.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I want you to beat sciatica.
Yes.
All due respect, Doc, about that big win of the Gracies.
Beat sciatica now.
I
like that.
So,
I don't think sciatica's going over.
Huh?
I don't think sciatica's going over. I think you get your hand raised.
I think my doctor's trying to scare the shit out of it.
Oh, yeah.
So it's good. So anyway, I'm going to Oklahoma to see if I can get better. Simple as
glad to
that.
hear it.
So I needed look, he's worked on so many athletes over the years. Fighters, Olympic athletes. He's just very skilled. And he's my age, and we used to have a lot of fun shooting the shit. He's a big wrestling fan, and he was like a fan of Dan Hodge, as every shooter in the world was that Eddie Brains. You respect the respect. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do. Try to get better. I want to get back on. I want to get back on the road. I still say my goal is Wembley. But if I can get back quicker than Wembley, I'm happy to do it, man. I'm happy to do it. I want to work. It's just I got to be able to walk and be in balance. I'm sure there's a lot of folks out there that's had sciatica, Conrad.
Oh yeah.
It screws up your balance. I know now when I get up, I've got to kind of do the old man thing. I kind of have my hand on something like a table or a chair or something like that.
I get it.
Just to get my balance. And once I do, boom, off and running. So it'll be good. But I sure appreciate everybody's remarks on Twitter and Facebook and all those places. It makes me feel good to read that you guys give a shit. And because I sure do, and you know that. So we'll all gather at the river and we'll have a big song and dance and a cookout. And we'll be just in good shape here sooner than later.
Can't wait, man. It's going to be a blast to see you back. Of course, you can see Jim on YouTube, Grilling JR on youtube.com. Pick up all your JR merch over at grillingjrtees.com and make plans to join us. I'm going to get Jim there too, one way or another. He's coming to Chicago for StarCast. It's going to be a blast. Tickets and bracelets are on sale now. That's StarRcast.com. We've even got bundles with some of the best seats in the house for the AEW All Out show. You don't want to miss it. It's in Chicago, the spiritual home of StarCast. This will be our 5th event at the Hyatt Regency in Schaumburg. 2 Top Guy weekends for adfreeshows.com. And now this is our 3rd StarCast. StarCast number 6 on sale now. StarRcast.com. That's going to be Friday, September 1st, Saturday, September 2nd, and Sunday, September 3rd. Going to have the convention floor open for all the pictures and autographs and things like that on Saturday and Sunday. Going to have some special photo ops, but not the convention floor open on Friday, but panels all 3 days. And I think Friday night is going to have something for everybody. Can't wait for you guys to see some of our stage shows and panel announcements. Stay tuned to us over on social media at StarCast Events for all of those updates, including, as it was just announced yesterday, as folks are listening to this, you can watch the show on Premiere. So if for some reason you can't make it to Chicago, the Premiere streaming service is going to have you hooked up with all of our panels from StarCast 6. And as I understand it, when you purchase StarCast 6, you get to see StarCast 1 through 5. They're included with your purchase. So
that's a hell of a deal.
Great value, a lot of great wrestling content, and it's going to be exclusively at Premiere. Jim, I had a lot of fun today talking about Fully Loaded. I think I'll always remember this show for the Sable skit more than anything else. Is that what you think this show is remembered for on your side as well?
I would say yes.
Yeah.
And that may sound crazy coming from an old traditionalist, but again, great marketers know how to find their audience.
Yes.
I don't care what you're selling. You have to identify who your audience is and where are you. And we thought that 18 to 34 demo was so lucrative, we needed to locate them and attach ourselves to them. And one way to do that, and excuse my French, was great. It's 2 great looking sets of boobs. And look, hey, those women work their ass off to get those looks.
Oh yeah.
I've bragged on Jackie Moore so many times that people think I've got a crush on her, and I may have. But the bottom line is she did so much for our company in helping these beauty queens learn to work. And for her to go out there and not hurt Sable when they were wrestling, scuffling around. I mean, Jackie could have killed her in a heartbeat.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But she was a team player. And that's what I'll always admire about her and thank her for. It's her team player. And the fact Sable she stepped off the stage a star. She walked into Vince's office a star. And I love that line. Did you see what I saw? Yeah, I sure did, buddy. So he said, we're hiring the wrong person. Well, who says we can't hire her? That's right. Make sure we got something on paper. So that was how that worked out. So it worked out good. But we gave a lot of information today, Connie.
Yeah, it was a good show, man.
A couple hour show. I like that. And so, folks, this is one of those shows where you can probably listen to it twice.
Yeah.
And realize you missed that on the first go around. So anyway, I appreciate you though, Conrad.
Hey, man, I had a blast, and I hope everybody tunes in to AEW. JR is going to be back sooner rather than later. Tickets are on sale now, AEWTIX.com. Jim's trying to get back by Wembley at the latest, but you can see all the AEW action, including when they're right up the road here in Nashville. Man, that'd be cool if you were back on the road for that one about a month from now. They're going to be in Nashville. I'm going to go check that one out, AEWTIX.com. And that'll do it for us here on Grilling JR. We'll be back next week talking all things Brawl for All. This of wrestling, Mr. Jim Ross.
You're sure trying to piss me off, and I think you succeeded. Brawl for all my ass. Folks, thanks for joining us. Next week will be a dandy, I promise you. See you.
Hey guys, need to call a quick timeout here. Wanted to tell your listeners what I've been telling my listeners over at OU didn't know for a while now about all the cool things happening over at adsfreeshows.com.
We recently celebrated the 25-year anniversary of the biggest Nitro of all time, when Goldberg faced Hollywood Hogan at the Georgia Dome. Eric, alongside the Taskmaster Kevin Sullivan and the living legend Larry Zbyszko, joined Ad Free Shows members live to relive it.
Yeah, well, you can't fire me now, so I'll tell you the truth. I don't think anything can beat that. That was the ultimate. I mean, they broke the decibel record. The roof blew off the place. It was amazing. Totally amazing.
Speaking of the Taskmaster, Kevin Sullivan joins AdFreeShows.com starting this July with a brand new mailbag series, Tuesday with the Taskmaster, answering your questions each and every week.
I have over 50 years of experience in the wrestling business, and I'm happy to be on this platform with Conrad. So send in your letters. You got a question, I can go back even past 50 years, and I'm a wrestling historian. So anything you want to know, we'll try to deliver.
That's just a small taste of what we got waiting for you. With 4 levels to choose from, see for yourself why Ads Free Shows is the best value in wrestling today. Sign up now at adsfreeshows.com.